Many Christians believe tattoos go against God. But where does this belief come from? Well, it comes from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 28. You shall not make any gashes in your flesh for the dead, or tattoo any marks upon you. I am the Lord. That's it. Guess what? That is all. That is all the verses in the Bible about tattoo. But this stigma and judgment and belief from that one little verse is still in churches today. But this is the only verse, and it comes in the Old Testament. I have 8 tattoos. I have a Spider-Man tattoo. I have a Karate Kid tattoo. I have an Optimus Prime tattoo. I have a Ninja Turtle tattoo. I have a puzzle piece for my fiance. I have an infinity gauntlet with my kids' initials. I have coordinates where I met my first wife, and I have a Batman tattoo. But which one of these go against God? Before we answer that, let me ask you this. Which of these tattoos go against God? Now let's break down this verse that everybody likes to use against people with tattoos. You shall not make any gashes in your flesh for the dead, or tattoo any marks upon your body. I am the Lord. But let's back up a second. What you always need to do when interpreting the Bible is put it into context. You need to ask yourself, why in Leviticus are they saying tattoos are bad? Well, all you need to do is read Elijah on Mount Carmel. So let's jump right into Elijah. I'm going to paraphrase this, but let's go through Elijah and let's learn this story real quick. Elijah stood before King Ahab and said, I haven't caused any trouble for Israel. You and your family have. You turned away from God's commands and started worshiping Baal. Then he challenged Ahab, gather all the people of Israel and meet me at Mount Carmel. Bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Azarah who served Queen Jezebel. Ahab sent out the message and everyone gathered at Mount Carmel. Elijah spoke to the crowd. How long will you keep changing your mind? If the Lord is your true God, follow him. But if Baal is, then follow him. The people didn't say a word. Elijah continued. I am the only prophet of the Lord left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Let's do a test. Bring 2 bulls. The prophets of Baal can choose one. Cut it into pieces, place it on the wood without lighting a fire. I will do the same with the other bull. Then we will each pray to our gods. The one who answers by sending fire is the real God. The people agreed, saying that's kind of fair. Elijah turned to the prophets of Baal. Go ahead. You have so many people. Call on your God, but don't start the fire yourself. The prophets of Baal, they prepared their bull. From morning until noon, they prayed, Baal, answer us. But nothing happened. They danced wildly around the altar, but still, no response. At noon, Elijah was like, I'm gonna start teasing him. Shout louder, he says. Maybe your God's just thinking, or maybe he's busy, or maybe he's away on a trip. Maybe he's asleep and you gotta wake him up. Just taunting them. So they shouted even louder. They even cut themselves with swords and spears, which was their custom, and blood flowed from their wounds, trying to get their God's attention. They kept this up all afternoon, but still, nothing happened. No voice, no fire, nada. Then Elijah called the people to him. He rebuilt the Lord's altar using the 12 stones, one for each of the tribes of Israel. He dug a trench around it. Then he stacked wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on top. To make things even harder, Elijah said, pour 4 large jars of water over the wood and the bull, because fire is hard to, can't light wood on fire if it's wet. Do it again. They did. Do it again. Do it a 3rd time. They pour even more water. The altar was completely soaked and water filled the trench. Then Elijah stepped forward and he prayed. Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let everyone know today that you are the one true God. Show them that I am your servant and that I have done everything as you commanded. Answer me, Lord, so the people will know that you are turning their hearts back to you. Suddenly, fire fell from the sky. It burned the bull, the wood, the stones, the dirt, even the water in the trench was gone. The people were shocked. They fell to the ground and cried out, the Lord is our God, the Lord is our God. So in Leviticus, it was written, you shall not make any gashes in your flesh for the dead or tattoo any marks upon you. I am the Lord. But it is written because of the Mount Carmel incident. They cut themselves with swords and spears to get God's attention, because that's what Baal told them that they had to do to get God's attention, and he didn't answer, because that's not what you need to do. They also would tattoo marks on their body to get attention from God, which you don't need to do. Most Christians throughout history take some Old Testament laws as guidelines for all times, while others are thought to be specific to ancient Israel, which is what we see here. This was time and place, context. Leviticus, it is said here, with part of the rules for the people, because they are following false gods or doing false things led by false people. So God was telling them, don't do these things. We must put ourselves in that period of time to get insight and context of what is going on and not apply it to right now. You got to look then when this is written, because what may be necessary to set one apart from the culture at one time might not always be necessary for another time. Hence, we're not cutting ourselves with swords and spears and making our blood to get attention from God. We're not marking our bodies to get attention from God. I didn't get a Ninja Turtle tattoo or a Batman tattoo to get attention from God and worship God in that way. I'm not under that delusion. I know that's not how that works. And if we're gonna go by Leviticus and everything that is said, let's read through the rest of it. It says, do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. I agree with all those. Those apply to today's culture. That makes sense. Do not swear falsely by my name, so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Don't use the name's Lord in vain. Gotcha. Blasphemy. Can do that. That's not a problem. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. That's fine. I'm not going next door and robbing Bill. No, I'm good. I'm gonna say here. Do not hold back the wages for workers that work overnight. So pay them overtime if they're working the night shift. Like, I get that. That makes sense. It might not apply exactly till today, but back then, they had people were not getting paid for working overnight. So he's like, don't do that to people. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. Don't pick on the crippled. Like, that makes sense. I'm running with that. That's good. That's a good thing that applies to society now. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor and favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. So don't treat homeless people and poor people worse than you treat people that have money. These are good things that we can apply. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Don't gossip. Don't be like, Johnny said this and Billy said this and Anna said this and Chris said this and Peter said this. Like, stop. Got it. Makes sense. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Again, don't kill your neighbor. There's a lot of killing between neighbors going on back then. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly so you will not share in their guilt. So don't hate a fellow Christian. Don't hate a fellow Israelite. That's how it applies. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as you love yourself. Again, treat other people like you would treat yourself. These are all good. Keep my decrees. Do not mate different kinds of animals, but we have like multiple kinds of dogs and chickens and all kinds of stuff like that. So back then, that definitely was a way of doing it. Now it's not so much. Do not plant your field with two kinds of seed. Here's another one. Do not wear clothing woven in two kinds of material. We're all wearing cotton blend shirts. We gotta think, guys. Think. Why were they doing that back then? Why is God telling them back then? How does it apply now? We gotta use our brains. We gotta get context. We gotta understand why that messaging is coming through. Do not practice divination or seek omens. Again, don't be a witch. Don't practice witchcraft. God doesn't like that. Do not cut your hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard. That's right. You're getting a fade. I have a shaved head. I have a shaved beard. Back then, there's context. Back then, they were doing it to get God's attention. They were doing it because they thought they were a prophet from Baal. That Baal was telling them to do this stuff. And then God's like, you don't have to do any of this to get my attention. Just love me, seek me, find me, be with me. Do not degrade your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will turn into prostitution and be filled with wickedness. Yeah, I'm not gonna make my daughter into a prostitute. I have 5 daughters. I'm not gonna make them into prostitutes. Like, you just gotta use your mind. You gotta use context. You gotta use common sense when it comes to this. Do not turn to mediums or seek out spiritualists, for the will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Stop putting belief in other people and believe in God. So a lot of this in Leviticus makes sense, and it does apply to our culture now, but some of it doesn't apply to our culture now. And the reason why is because the intent of those people back then. That's why it was written in ancient Israel. They were doing things with the intent that is different. We need to have context to understand which is for the culture of that time and which applies to today. That is the biggest thing here, guys. I got a lot of comments about tattoos and how those are bad and your body's a temple and you shouldn't be doing all of that. But at the end of the day, there's one scripture about it, and it's in Leviticus, We know why it was said. And in my opinion, based upon all the evidence, based upon I'm reading, based upon context, tattoos are just fine. As long as you're not getting a tattoo worshiping the devil or getting a tattoo to defile God. Of course, not all tattoos are fine. But my Ninja Turtle, my Batman, my Karate Kid, my Spider-Man tattoo, when you see me walking down the street, I still love Jesus and I still love God. I just have tattoos. It's okay. I'm not gonna go to hell for getting a tattoo. I promise you that. Let's close in prayer. I wanna say, first of all, anybody watching this video that needs healing and is sick or needs the touch of you, please touch their body, heal their mind, heal their sickness, whether it be mental health, whether it be cancer, whether it be anything they need, Lord, please put your hand on them and heal them. Anybody watching the video, friends, family, financially, whatever you need to take care of your family, whatever you need the inner peace, please put your hand over there, God, and bless them and fix them and give them healing and shed light on them. And if you're a non-believer and you're watching this, please reach out in the comments. Let me know. I will help you. I want to make sure you understand the Bible. I want to make sure you're a believer, and amen. And hey guys, if you like videos from me, go ahead, click or touch the screen now and watch this video, because guess what? Hell doesn't exist. All right, I'll catch you in the next one.